A man named Patrick sat alone in a hospital waiting room at 2:15 in the morning. The plastic chair was hard and the fluorescent light above him hummed at a frequency that made his temples ache. His mother had been in emergency surgery for 3 hours and 40 minutes. The surgeon had come out once at midnight to say it was going well and that it would be several more hours. Patrick had nodded and sat back down. He had been sitting in the same chair for nearly 5 hours. He had not eaten since the previous morning. He had not slept the night before because his mother had called him in severe pain. He was 34 years old and she was the only family he had left in the world. He was not a man who cried easily, but sitting there at 2:15 in the morning, he felt a profound kind of loneliness. Across the waiting room a woman was mopping the floor in long, slow arcs. She was perhaps 60 years old with gray hair. She moved methodically and quietly around the chairs and the low tables without disturbing anything. Patrick watched her without meaning to, the way you watch anything that moves when everything else is still. At some point he became aware that he had been staring at the vending machine against the far wall for several minutes. He had enough money in his pocket for one item, but the act of standing up felt somehow beyond him in that moment. The cleaner made her way slowly in his direction, mopping around the base of the chairs in a wide arc. As she passed the row of chairs where he was sitting, she paused. She reached into the front pocket of her apron and placed a small collection of coins on the empty seat directly beside him. Then she continued mopping down the corridor without a backward glance. He looked at the coins on the plastic seat. He looked at her retreating figure. He looked at the vending machine. He stood up, walked across the room, bought a cheese sandwich and a small bottle of water, sat back down, and ate slowly. It was the best thing he had tasted in as long as he could remember. At 5:40 in the morning the surgeon came through the double doors. His mother had come through. There would be a recovery period, but she was stable and asking for him. He sat with his head in his hands for a full minute. When he finally walked to the exit he looked for the cleaner. She was near the far end of the corridor, loading a trolley. He walked the full length of the corridor to reach her. He said, "Excuse me?" She looked up. He said, "Earlier tonight, you left some coins on the seat beside me. I want you to know that it mattered more than I can explain." She looked at him steadily and said, "It doesn't matter." He said, "It matters to me very much." She said, "My own son sat in this same waiting room 7 years ago when I was the one in surgery. He sat alone all night with no food and no money, and nobody came near him. When I came out, he had lost 4 kilograms. She straightened up slowly. "After that, I made a decision. Every night shift I work in this building, I keep coins in my apron pocket, and whenever I see someone sitting the way my son sat that night, I leave them beside whoever it is and keep moving." Patrick stood in the corridor and looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Thank you." She nodded once. He walked out of the hospital into the early morning light. Some people move through the world leaving small, quiet lights behind them in every corridor they pass through. They never ask to be seen. They just keep moving and keep giving in the dark. Comment Amen if a stranger's kindness once held you together when you were close to falling apart.